Hey, hi, and howdy, y'all. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, I am Courtney, and it is time to see what I served my family for dinner this week. It was definitely a short week. My husband and my oldest went out of town for part of the week. They have birthdays at the same time, so it was kind of their birthday trip. My oldest son turned 21 just a couple weeks ago, and my husband took him to Fredericksburg for a little birthday celebration. He's never been before. My husband and I go every year, but my oldest has not been, so we thought this would be super fun. He's off doing that. I am at home with our younger kids. They are 9 and 10. We are still doing homeschool and all that, but I am not cooking all the meals because it's just the three of us and they wanted Domino's, so we are having Domino's. So let's look at what we had over the week before everybody left, though, because I cooked three really fantastic meals. This first one is Mediterranean fish, and I knew we were going to like this just because we really like almost every fish dish I have ever cooked. We just love eating fish. It's definitely one of our favorite proteins. Unfortunately, it is also one of the most expensive ones. So we only eat it once a week at best, and sometimes not even that often. Just depends on what kind of deal I can get. Today we're going to be using Swai, S-W-A-I. I buy it at Sam's Club, and I'm not entirely certain I am pronouncing it correctly. I did check with Google, and that is how they said it, but I still feel like I could be wrong. Anyway, we are going to serve this a Mediterranean style. This is a Pinterest recipe, and I will link it down below. I started off by seasoning some flour with just some salt and pepper, some Mediterranean seasoning. You could just use Italian seasoning too. That is fine. It's just a Mediterranean blend I got at Sam's Club. It's, I think, by the store brand, and I have it on hand. I use it. It's good on chicken and fish and stuff like that. I threw it in the flour to season it. And then a little paprika, because you guys know I love paprika. And then instead of like an egg wash to batter the fish, we're making this right here. And it's really tasty. It's so good. Oh my gosh. So I melted a couple of tablespoons of butter and added a tiny bit of my garlic oil. If you are interested in how I make my garlic oil at my confit garlic, that is linked below in the description box. It is a very short video and it's very easy to make. But it is like one of my all-time favorite kitchen condiments, so check that video out if you have not seen it. But anyway, I mixed my garlic oil and some of my confit garlic in here actually, and some lemon juice, and then I just seasoned it just like I did the flour, except I also added a little bit of herbs here. So instead of just using the Mediterranean seasoning, I also added in some parsley and some dill, and then of course some salt, some pepper, the Mediterranean seasoning, and a little bit of paprika. And I added, of course, that garlic in there. So this has more of a garlic flavor than the flour does. But we are like loaded with flavor. And I think that is what made this so absolutely amazing. There was just a big pop of flavor. And sometimes fish can be bland or just fishy. But this definitely just made it beautiful and bright and so delicious. So I went ahead and took about half of that mixture and set it off to the side because we're going to reduce that into a sauce in a little bit that we can dip our fish in. And then the other half of it we are going to use to batter our fish. Like I said, instead of an egg wash or milk or anything, we're just going to dip our fish fillets directly in here. I believe the recipe called for cod, which is one of the more expensive types of fish. A lot of times I will substitute other things like tilapia or something or whatever I can find on sale. And like I said, today we are using a different type of fish. Don't be afraid to substitute one fish for another. I find that it works out just fine as long as you're using a fish you know your family's going to like to eat. So I'm just going to dip each one in our liquid and then dip it in our flour and make sure it is fully coated. And then I am just moving it over to a skillet on my stovetop that has a little bit of oil in it. I will say I was not terribly pleased with the batter. I mean, like, it tasted amazing. It was beautiful in flavor. I love the dish, but it was not crispy. It just didn't get crispy. If I were to do this again, I would add breadcrumbs. I would use like a third of the amount of flour I used, and then I would just put the rest as breadcrumbs because I think that would have crisped up a little bit better than what the flour did. You know, you don't want to overcook fish, so it doesn't take very long to cook it in a skillet like this, but I felt like this particular flour mixture just did not have the time to thicken up the way I would have liked for it to. I also knew right off the bat it was not going to adhere as well. I have made a similar dish probably a year and a half ago on this channel, and I knew for a fact the batter just wasn't going to adhere like a normal fried batter. So just be prepared that it is much more delicate and some of it will just flake off. So I do have my cooling rack there, and I just put my cooling rack over a baking sheet, and that's when I'm putting the fish on and then popping it in the oven set on warm. If your oven does not have a warm setting, just put it on the lowest setting possible, and that will keep your fish nice and warm. And if it is crispy, it'll help keep it from getting soggy. As I said, this was not crispy, but it was so full of flavor, like, we didn't care. But anyway, that's my tip. I just put it in the oven on warm on a cooling rack so that it's not sitting in a pool of oil. Now I took the oil that was left in the skillet and I added in a little bit of flour. We're just using that to make a roux. And then I'm adding in that leftover sauce mixture that I had there that we used to dip the fish in. The stuff is so beautiful. The flavor is just absolutely amazing. The original recipe, I think, did not call for paprika, but don't skip it. Add it. It is so good. I did add a little bit of white wine in here just to kind of like stretch this a little bit further. I have a gas stove, so I do turn off the flame when I add in alcohol just because I don't want to have any kind of flare up. So if you are cooking over gas, just a safety tip, you might want to make sure and turn that flame off. But I just let that thicken up and it takes like no time at all because there's not a whole lot of this left. And it was a beautiful dipping sauce for the fish. And I just served this with a box of chicken rice-a-roni that I mixed some frozen broccoli in. So easy, so simple, but so good. It's an easy side you can dress up a million different ways. All right, so this recipe I was looking very forward to and it did not disappoint. The only thing that I wasn't as crazy about was the rice, which I don't even show on here because it is just a store-bought rice. My week is all off. My schedule is off. We had like so many things going on this week. So my grocery shopping was actually done on a different day. My video will be up when it normally is, but anyway, you'll see this rice on my grocery haul next week on Tuesday. But it was a ginger coconut rice that I just bought at the store. It's like a rice-a-roni, but a different brand. Didn't love it. Wasn't my favorite. But the chicken and everything else was fabulous. So we're going to make this tandoori air fryer chicken or air fryer tandoori chicken. I'm starting off with the marinade here. I will link the original recipe down below. You start off with some yogurt and then you season it up. And one of the things that this recipe called for is fenugreek, which I've never used before. But I happen to have on hand because my mom had some and she gave it to me and she's like, let me know when you figure out what to do with it. So Mom, if you are watching, this is what I have done with it. I made air fryer tandoori chicken. Anyway, I put that in and quite a few other things. There's a bunch of recipes out there for tandoori seasoning. So if you don't have fenugreek, leave it out, look for a substitute online or just look for a different recipe and you can really cook tandoori chicken in your air fryer, whether it says it's an air fryer recipe or not. Just make sure that the base of the marinade has some yogurt in it because I find that is really one of the key things I see in every single recipe. So I've got this all seasoned up with all of my spices. It is a heavily spiced marinade. And I'm just putting a couple of chicken thighs in there. I'm trying not to have any leftovers this week just because, like I said, everybody was going out of town and stuff. So I didn't want a fridge full of food that probably wasn't going to get eaten. So I've only got 3 chicken thighs in there because there's only 3 adults that are going to be eating this food. And I like to really mash it around and make sure the marinade gets all over all of the chicken. And I'm doing this in the morning before we leave. And when we get home in the afternoon, I will toss it in the air fryer. I have a little bit of time from when we get home before we have to leave to martial arts. So it'll be perfect. This is the sauce. So this was not part of the recipe. I'm just throwing this together because I really felt like I wanted some kind of cooling sauce. In the past, whenever I've eaten tandoori chicken, I always have some kind of sauce with it. So I'm just throwing together a cucumber yogurt sauce, not necessarily tzatziki, but not necessarily not tzatziki. I'm just grating up half of a cucumber there on my, grater. I have this little hand one. It's a little bit bigger than a microplane, but smaller than a regular grater. You can shred it up any way you want to. And then I'm going to add some yogurt in there. This is just plain yogurt. It is not flavored. I do happen to have this on hand so I can make like smoothies or, yogurt bowls or something. I prefer the vanilla, but I keep this one on hand too so I can also cook with it. So with my half a cucumber, I put about 3/4 of a cup of yogurt. I'm going to add some salt and some pepper. And the thing I'm going to add in here that I would not add if I was doing a tzatziki sauce is this cumin here. Normally I don't add that into tzatziki. It's kind of a warmer flavor, but I know it really blends and pairs well with Indian food or Indian, style cooking. So I thought that this would be great. I added in some lemon juice for brightness. And this was an absolutely beautiful sauce because the spice on the chicken is very heavy. It's very warm. It's very strong. And this was really bright and vibrant and cooling. So now I'm just going to take my chicken thighs and lay them out on my air fryer basket. I'm going to cook them at 375 for about 14 minutes per side, flip them over, and they look like they've been grilled. It's beautiful. It is my new favorite way to cook chicken this year. I'm in love with cooking in the air fryer. I don't have to turn on the oven. I don't have to stand over the stove. It's just great. So any naked spots I saw on the chicken that didn't get any marinade, I'm just going to patch those up real quick with my finger just to make sure everybody has tons of flavor. That's it. And I served it with some store-bought naan and some store-bought hummus because I love hummus and naan and I had it on hand. All right, y'all, let's move on to the very last dish. This is chicken tinga. I have never had it before, but I would definitely make it again. It is very bold in flavor. It is delicious, and best of all, it's a slow cooker meal. So if you're like me and you're not going to be home all day, it's perfect because it's waiting for you when you finally come home. I'm cutting the recipe in half, but I will link the full recipe down below. It is from Pinterest. So I've got 3 chicken thighs, and then I just used a very tiny can of tomato sauce. It calls for a big can of diced tomatoes, but like I said, I'm halving this. It also calls for chipotle peppers, but I just get the can of chipotle sauce, so that's what I've added in there. And then I'm going to season this up with everything it calls for: oregano, chili powder, paprika, some salt, and some pepper. Don't be shy with the salt on this one. Just seriously don't. I know that chicken can take a lot of salt, and the heaviness of everything, the tomatoes are like a really heavy flavor. The chili powder is heavy. The garlic and onion powder are heavy. The chipotle sauce is heavy. It really needs that salt to kind of cut through it, so don't be shy with the salt. So I added my salt and I added my pepper, and like I said, my garlic powder and onion powder. Let it go low and slow all day, and this is what it looked like when I finally got home. I just took my meat masher and just went to town with it because that chicken just falls right apart. It is so tender and beautiful, and my house smelled absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to turn the burner, or not the burner, I'm going to turn this on. It does like a sear and saute setting. It's my Ninja Foodie. It is linked below if you're interested. But I'm just going to turn it on and let it just kind of simmer to thicken up that sauce. And while that's happening, I'm going to take my beans. These are the charro beans that I cooked in my meal prep video, if you guys watched it. These are those beans. It's the last of them that's left. It was a giant pot. And I'm just going to make some refried beans out of them so we can have some tostadas. So I've just poured what was left into my skillet, and I am heating it up. And the warmer it gets, the easier it is to mash these beans. You can use your meat masher. You can use a potato masher. I just use a spoon because I'm lazy and I don't want to get anything else in there. You could even use an immersion blender if you really want to, but I like a lot of texture in mine. So I'm very content mashing them with the back of a spoon. And like I said, the warmer they get, the easier it is to mash them. And then you just let this simmer until it reaches the consistency you like. Some people like their beans a lot thicker than other people. Some people want their refried beans like really thin and loose. So that's totally up to you. You be the judge there. I like mine pretty thick and creamy, so I let mine go for quite a while. And that's what they look like. They're about done there. Most of the liquid has evaporated. And of course, I've mashed most of the beans. So I'm just going to spread these on a tostada, put that shredded chicken on top, and top it with whatever you want. I just did cheese, but you could do lettuce and tomato and onion and all the things if you want to, some sour cream and guacamole. I was throwing this together super quick, but it was amazing. Again, y'all, all the recipes will be linked down below so y'all can make it for your family. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my new subscribers. I've had a bunch of them, and I am so excited that y'all are here. Thank you so much. Hope you guys like this video, and I will see you on Tuesday with my grocery haul. Bye.